today's discussion, as you can see, is how can we reduce the impact of the floods and the other natural disasters, and how can Nepal build a safer future after disaster with the focus on the flood resilience. And today's discussion will be presented and led by engineer Ajeena Timilsina. Being a Nepali, we all have been affected by natural disaster in some or the other way, because Nepal is a disaster-prone region where we have to go through several disasters such as earthquake, landslides, floods, forest fire, and so on. And besides this, I would also like to bring to your attention that October 13th, which is observed as a which is observed every year by UN as the International Day for Disaster Reduction, which aims to promote the global culture of risk awareness and disaster reduction. So it also aligns with our topic of discussion today. And before we start our program, I would also like to bring to your attention and that we are going to adopt a slightly changed approach in the talk program, where in this talk program the presenter would like to mostly focus on the discussion based approach rather than the presentation. So I would like to request and encourage everyone to actively participate and contribute to our meaningful discussions that we are going to have today. On this note, I would like to now hand over to Miss Ajeena Timilsina, so then she can start her session.
Yeah,
And
can you hear me?
yes, and I would also like to request everyone so that they can mute themselves so we won't have issues regarding echo and other things. Thank you.
Okay, should I start? Okay,
Yes, Ajeena.
yeah. Hi, I'm Ajeena Timilsina, and as Shilan Didi said, today's topic is going to be discussion based. It's not really going to be a webinar as such. And the topic and discussion is how we can reduce the impact of floods and other natural disasters in Nepal. And since that this is Disaster Week, it's a perfect time to discuss with everyone about this subject. I'm not joking. Why can't I go next? Sorry, I have to stop sharing for a second, if that's okay. Oopsies. Are you using full screen? I don't know what's going on. Wait, just bear with me. Oh yeah. Can you see? Hello, can you hear me as well? Yeah, you can. Okay. So about me is I recently graduated from Cardiff University in civil engineering, and my areas of interest currently is disaster management and project management and education. And in 2019, I worked in INSEC for 2 to 3 months, but I was working in the social and humanitarian aspect more than the technical. And what I've realized over the course of my studies is sometimes what I learned in theory, we can't use in practical use because of so many factors, like for instance, the design and the design of like the rivers, which I will discuss, why we can't do flood defenses and stuff like that. And mainly the cost of buildings, cost of infrastructure is quite hefty, and currently the Nepal's budget is quite slim. So to create these infrastructures, we do require more investments from abroad. Like I said, this isn't a webinar, it's a talk program, so please urge everyone to talk and collaborate, if that's okay. So firstly, I'm going to start by explaining what a natural disaster is. So natural disaster is a natural phenomenon that occurs and it ruins infrastructures and societies. Unfortunately, we cannot control them. However, we can detect them. We can only detect floods and landslides, but even with that, we have to use data, and sometimes the data cannot be accurate because sometimes those factors cannot be controlled either. Like climate change, it's not something as humans we can control. So yes, we can control them, but we have to be more prepared for disasters than the disaster. We can't combat the disaster, but we can, you know, work around the disaster recovery and the disaster preparedness. Unfortunately, earthquakes cannot be detected, hence why of the consequences of earthquake is much more detrimental to society. The way we can reduce the impact is early warning system, which has already been incorporated in Nepal. Building resilient infrastructures, but like I mentioned earlier, is expensive, and adapting policies, but the system, I don't want to go political here, but the constitution of Nepal is a bit weak to a certain extent. So even adapting policies, we do have to work with organizations like UN to get those policies in place, and disaster preparedness. So preparing, and I'm going to talk about disaster preparedness throughout this session. So these are the Nepal's natural disaster. So the natural disasters I will be specifically talking about is floods and earthquakes. But Nepal is, because of how Nepal is situated, it's in between the plates. So there's if I'm not mistaken, the Indian continent and the UAE is a tectonic zone. So it's a seismic zone area. So earthquakes is very likely to happen. Floods, because of the drainage system, and monsoon season, floods do occur in Nepal. And Nepal is a small nation with so many different weathers, and the topography of Nepal is so diverse. We have tall mountains, we have flat regions. So the disasters facing those different regions are so distinct. However, all of these natural disasters, we can prepare for them and we can recover in the same sort of framework, if that makes sense. But like I said, I'm only going to be focusing on floods, earthquakes, and I will touch upon landslides since it is the byproduct of it. I will not be, apparently there's 18 natural disasters in Nepal, but these are the only ones that were UN approved. So if you guys want, you guys can write in the chat box what other natural disasters I missed out for it, so I know as well. And I don't know if I reiterated, I've never really worked in disaster management as an engineer. I've only worked as a student, as a humanitarian aid student, a volunteer. So my perception on this is very surface level, hence why I do want everyone's support to join and teach me more, and kind of knowledge sharing amongst each other. So this is my view only, this segment, so please do not get offended. But as an observer, as someone that's lived in Nepal, so I've never lived in Nepal since, well, I lived in Nepal, I was born in Nepal, but I moved to England when I was 5 years old. So I see Nepal in a very bird's eye perspective, right? So I've never really studied there. And from everything I've been taught in school and everything I've observed, Nepal, the way people handle disasters is the disaster recovery is absolutely impressive. Like, no, like hands down, it's the most impressive thing I've ever seen. The resilience of Nepali people is commendable. The fact that we all help each other out, the communal culture is so strong in Nepal that is absolutely commendable, if I'm completely being honest. However, but the thing is, Nepali people, what they do is they carry on living, well, this is my opinion, we carry on living with, like, we're surrounded by damaged buildings and we're okay with it. And we're not okay with it, but we become accustomed to be okay with it. Now, Nepal, this is the statistics I got from the UN, so it could be wrong, but this is what the UN has brought to my attention, is Nepal only spends 1% of its budget on natural disaster preparedness, which, if you think about it, Nepal is susceptible to so many natural disasters. Like I said, we have 18 natural disasters that can occur in Nepal, and for a fact that they only spend 1%, that's quite low. And right now, the government and the engineering community, they did create a strategic plan. It's called the Nepal's Disaster Risk Reduction Strategic Action, which aims for the budget to increase by 5%, which in my opinion is still low, since how like quick disasters do occur in Nepal. So yeah, and the current budget in Nepal is 1.96 trillion Nepali rupees. So we don't, if you think about it, for a country to have that budget, I think personally is quite low. But then again, I do come from England. So for me, seeing that number is quite intimidatingly low. But in the future, in the later section of the program, I will ask you guys on how we can, like, boost the numbers up and what we can do as a Nepali diaspora that lives globally. In my opinion, I've been to several of embassies programs, and there's no hate to them because I respect all the embassies and investment summits, but I happen to realize there's no engineers in them. And my dad has always taught me that no economic development can happen without engineers. And to be honest, if you think as a investor, like a perspective, if you think in a perspective, like as a investor, as a third person investor that lives in, I don't know, like New Zealand, or is a Middle Eastern investor or China's investor, why would they invest in Nepal when there's so much disasters that can occur? So if they happen to do some investment and infrastructure development, what if it gets demolished, right? So we have to be wary about those. And I feel like in those embassies and investment summits, it's vital to have it in as it's vital to have a disaster management aid program as well. That's my opinion, because I feel like then it will bring, like, it would increase the public trust in Nepal and that we are trying to solve engineering problems and disaster problems, if that makes sense. Also, UK and Japan and New Zealand, the way they handle disaster preparedness and disaster management is in a very systematic way versus Nepal. It sounds silly what I'm saying, but when I was going to Dahara Tower around that area, because of family events, I remember even in 2017 that the Dahara Tower was still broken, and the fact that there was no protection shield. So if you think about it, the public wasn't that far away from the destroyed building. And if anyone knows, because some of the debris of the building can attack people's eyes, and it's not very safe. And the fact that some locals can vandalize the remaining parts, it kind of made me realize that it's not very systematic and anything could happen injury wise. If you think about it, maybe I'm overthinking, but something like a protective covering could have helped. But when I went, there wasn't a protective covering. So I don't know if in other days there was protective covering, but when I went there wasn't. So yeah. And it took 3 years, if I'm not mistaken. So 2015 was when the earthquake happened, but then in 2018, that's when the Dahara Tower got rebuilt. So that is quite a long time if you think about it. Phase construction-wise as well. It should have happened with, well, in my opinion, it should have happened, or the ropes about it, but maybe they took time designing. I don't know. Now, about education-wise as well, the first thing I'm going to talk about is disaster preparedness education. So in New Zealand, New Zealand and Nepal, if you think about it, we have very similar, the way disasters occur is quite similar. Both of us have wide variety of landscape, variety of topography in our nations, and we're both earthquake prone countries. And New Zealand has national drills. I think it's a yearly national drills, and it's embedded in the curriculum, if I'm not mistaken. And even Japan and India, disaster management, like the drill and stuff, it's quite embedded. And learning about disasters in a psychological level is also embedded in the cultures. In Nepal, apparently, there is drills that do occur. However, it doesn't happen in public schools. And what I realized is people that come from marginalized societies get affected with disasters the most than people that don't come from those type of social groups. So I've kind of thought, how about we create Monsoon Awareness Week, where every school around Nepal has, the practice drilling and stuff. And some people, unfortunately, I was taught today that in Nepal drills do occur, and in school they do teach, but I'm not sure if it happens in the flood prone areas, and not everyone in Nepal has access to TVs, hence why as a national level maybe the government should create things like what India has done, is they've integrated disaster management into their curriculum, the CBSE curriculum, which I think would be a phenomenal idea if they embedded in our SEE section in social studies, because Nepal, we live, like, it's synonymous for disaster. So I think it's quite vital for us to incorporate drills. And I would like to tell you a story. So my cousin's wife, she's from Sweden, and when she came to Nepal in 2015, and she didn't know she did know what earthquake was, but she's never really experienced what an earthquake was. And during that period of time, she saw the Japanese people in the visa line, they were like, they did the drill, if that makes sense. And that's when she knew like what to do, and she followed them, and she followed the evacuation plan with them because they knew what to do. And she told me like that's how she basically survived, because even if I'm not mistaken, some of the airport was also in a sticky situation during the earthquake period. Hence why I do think this education is vital around Nepal. So the drill and educating people about disaster management, how to behave when there is a disaster, because disasters are common. The first question I want to ask everyone here is, when you guys were growing up, were you ever taught how to behave during a disaster? And if yes, could you tell me how it was incorporated in your learning, if that's okay? Thank you.
Yeah, so if I may just
Oh,
jump in.
yeah. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, that.
yes. So just to to your point, so if I remember correctly, when I was in school, I remember being taught earthquake drills. Like we were told to like go outside on the open field, and that was one of the things. And the other thing was like to like crouch down and like put your hands behind your head, those sort of stuff. So that's what I can recall. But yeah, I'm sure this is something that needs to be implemented more. Agree.
Thank you. Anyone else? Should I move on, if that's okay?
Anyone else would like to contribute, like in this regard? In my times during our school, we did not have drills. We just saw advertisement and all, like not advertisement, like we had the awareness and all in TV and all, but practically, I don't remember us having drills when we were in school. Maybe it has changed now, I'm not sure, like Yathat said, but yeah. So you,
Yeah, I want to share something regarding my experience while I'm in school. I did my school living certificate back in 2058, 59. During that time, we have the everything in the course, in our course, about the drill, about the precaution that we have to take place during the time of the disaster, like the earthquake, like the flooding. Everything is in our curriculum. And during the earthquake back in 2015, uh, I was in police, and then I get the chance to serve the people who are in the war situation. And yes, as the Angela mentioned, we are not prepared. We are not prepared. We are well aware we are in we are highly affected in zone. But the thing is, it's not only about the practice, also about the, as he mentioned, about the budget and
yes.
about the things that all, as everyone knows, all our system is completely corrupted.
Mhm.
There is, yes, during that time when I was in airport, we have got lots of support from the neighboring country like the China and the India, but those items are not properly supplied to the affected people. That is another thing. Uh,
Mm.
for well, particularly for this one, which she just raised now, we have the real and the things in our curriculum during that time. I
Yeah,
believe
that's.
this is more improved now as the course is slightly modernized and the
Mhm.
SLC is changed into the SEE now. Yeah.
Yes, and believe like
Yeah.
even in the offices, like private offices as well as government offices, they should have a designated area where everyone should gather like if there's earthquake, there should be like emergency evacuation routes and all, but I don't think it's in practice. So I think that is
Yeah,
also required, right?
everyone is well aware what they have
Yeah,
to do. It's
do,
only about the
but
practice. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
people they are. Yeah, that's the only thing I think. Yeah,
Because
here in
even in normal circumstances, when we do not practice, we are not able to act, right? So especially in
agreed.
the disaster, when like it's a very scary situation and it's a very, our mind stops working. So unless we practice what we are taught, we won't be able to react properly. I think that's why practice is very important,
Yeah,
like real drills and all. Yes.
and the main problem that we don't have the signage.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
what
is
we have to do. There is no system for the fire sprinkler systems even now. We in the modern building, if you go to the high-tech building now, there is the sprinkler system in the event of the fire, which will be automatically
hmm
activated. Yeah, but if you go to the government office or the private offices, there is still a lack of science. Like here, whereas in UK, if you go
yeah,
to the in the first day of your employment or for the induction, that is the first thing they will show you
exactly.
what you have to do, what
Yeah.
are the signs you have to follow in the event of the incident, isn't it? Whereas in
Yes.
Nepal, that's the main problem. It looks like the signage are very tiny thing, but that plays very important role.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Okay,
Okay,
Arjuna,
Arjuna,
so
so
would you
would you
like
like
to
to
move
move
forward?
forward? Yeah, I
Yeah.
would just like to add on to everyone's point. In New Zealand and in Japan, like you guys have mentioned, in school, I mean, in workplace as well, this concept has been adapted. So I do think if you look at the death tolls in disasters in Japan and New Zealand, it's quite minimal. And it's difference between learning it and actually putting it into action because they're two very different things. So yeah, but thank you all for joining in. I'm going to move on. Wait, hello. Can you hear me? Yes. Yeah. So I'm going to move on to the flood segment. So recently there has been a flood. It was caused by the monsoon season in Nepal. And in this segment, I'm going to talk about flooding in Nepal and how it affects our society. So if you can look at the statistics, I got all of this from the UN site, so and Kathmandu Post. So I'm just going to let you guys know because these numbers aren't randomly formed. I did a bit of research. In 2022, 205 people died due to monsoon, and that inculcates into landslides, flooding, and lightning. In 2023 South Asian flood monsoon season, unfortunately, 104 people passed away, but if I'm not mistaken, around 200 people were injured. And in 2024, um, 224 people had died and 158 people were injured. And as of now, because as you guys may be aware, just recently there was a flooding that occurred in Nepal last week, the first weekend of October. And as of now, it's been recorded by Al Jazeera News that 47 people have died due to flooding and landslides in Nepal. Now, if you can see that the numbers are declining in 2025, but we still are in October. So maybe by the end of October, the number might, change up. But I'm going to acknowledge one thing, right? Even though we are seeing the number decrease, and we do need to also acknowledge that the Nepal is preparing in certain ways. So there's EWS, early warning system, that's integrated AI as well. And Nepal's government is designing embankments and creating shelters, which is brilliant. But the issue I'm seeing is the proportionality isn't really matched upon. As you guys are aware, because of climate change, the more expulsion of floods, the more expulsion of landslides, any other natural phenomena is going to increase. And with that, we need to also proportionalize the efforts in disaster preparedness. And as of now, if it seems to me personally that, let's say 2025 Golagi, what Nepal's government is doing is they're preparing for a disaster that happened a back ago more than the future, if that makes sense. I would like to also thank the Nepal's recovery team, whether it be armies, helicopters that are owned by the army, the Nepal's police, for actually helping, because there's 100,000 people did volunteer to help local villages or flood susceptible areas, which I think we need to celebrate, and not celebrate, but we need to kind of, acknowledge their hard work, because working in a natural phenomena is quite distressing for anyone, and for the fact that people are risking their own lives to help other people is absolutely extraordinary. And like I've said, reiterated, the resilience in our community is commendable. Now, in this segment, I've kind of noted down the consequences of flooding. And if you look, and you can see in both like the city and Ilam, which is I'm pretty sure is an eastern region of Nepal, the basics, not the basics, but the consequences, the first few consequences are kind of the same. So infrastructure damage, roads and bridges being destroyed, and schools being closed, which, if you think about it economically speaking, is absolutely terrible for society. Now, in Kathmandu, flash floods happen, if that makes sense, because we're kind of congregated by hills, and our drainage system is combined sewage system, if I'm not mistaken. So our wastewater and our our normal water, whatever, it gets merged into one. And if you think about it, public health wise as well, that's not very good for public health. And with our minimal infrastructure we do have, even public hospitals, I don't know if they can combat the type of diseases that can occur during the flood system. And like I said, Kathmandu has experiences flash flood, which is rapid flood, and they don't really have enough, we don't have a sustainable drainage system as of yet. And it might seem silly, but airport delays is quite common during the monsoon season in Nepal. It might seem bottom of the barrel when it comes to consequences, but if you think about it, Kathmandu is a capital city, and it's our only international airport. And for the fact for airports to be delayed, that can be a bit of an issue. Now, I'm going to talk about Ilam. So Ilam is, as you might be aware, it's kind of known for, if I'm not mistaken, like a tree garden type of city. Well, not city, is it town or city? But it's situated in East Nepal, and the landscape is absolutely beautiful. And as a tourist, or as someone that's lived outside Nepal, when you look at Ilam, it just looks absolutely like tranquil and heaven-like. And during monsoon season, and if you can see the images, you can see what the flood has done to the landscape of Ilam, aesthetically talking, and it's absolutely atrocious. And the fact that roads and water sources have been broken, that means families are kind of struggling to find an area to access clean water, which unfortunately does cause deaths to occur as well. Like, as a byproduct of this consequences, more death will occur as time goes by. So when I think about this, it's quite disheartening to understand, because as someone that grew up in the UK, clean water is everywhere, if that makes sense. And I don't need to walk a mile to access clean water. And the fact that these kids and these families have to, that to me really makes me upset, if I'm being completely honest. Also in Ilam, due to the fact that roads are being broken, the only way some people got access to shelter or help is by helicopters, and some people were trapped within hills. And honestly, that sounds really gruesome way to kind of finish, like, I don't want to say this in a weird way, but that seems quite gruesome to pass away by that fact that your body it'll take a few days for your body to be found. That to me just boggles my mind. And there are certain things we can do to mitigate this, which I will explain in the next section. But if you can see, the consequences have been the same since 2020 till now, right? These same outcomes are occurring year by year by year. And that to me just says we're not prepared. Like, just because your boss said, say this year 47 people have died, we should not be celebrating, because still 47 souls have died. That's still a hefty amount of people that have passed away in the past. If that makes sense, it's only been a week and 47 people have died. That's quite concerning. And if it goes proportionate to that, then the outcome will be the same as the past years, even though they have incorporated the new systems. But it seems like it's not really working in the way that we should be. And as you guys are aware, I'm not saying this, but like this year, the fact that it's occurring during this season, Nepal's had a very difficult autumn fall season already. And the fact this is occurring during Dasai period and Tihar period, that breaks my heart, because even people that have existed now, their buildings are gone. And that makes me really upset, because now there's nothing, you know, they don't have a home to celebrate Tihar for. And even Tihar, they have to worry what if another flood and landslide occurs, you know. So it's that bit that really makes me upset. And I kind of want to conclude from this point that it just seems like our disaster plan isn't really future proof. We just think about like this current moment. We don't really think about the long term, the long term outcomes that will minimize the effects. So yeah. Now, this is what I came up with, the possible solutions for the flood. And I want to know your opinion before, but I'm going to kind of go through what I came up with, and I want to hear your opinions if you agreed or not. So the first thing is, in infrastructure, we could create concrete blocks. We can, instead of using concrete blocks as our pavements in Kathmandu, we can use permeable alternatives. And we can upgrade our sewage system. Instead of, you know, the combined sewage system, we can use a sustainable sewage system. And also, if anyone knows like about the carbon net 2050 and UN sustainable goals, it's very vital for Nepal to also adhere to environmental goals, right? We should not be behind in sustainable goals, because at the end of the day, Nepal is also part of the global world, and we need to also, you know, follow and adhere to global standards. Now, like I had mentioned in the first slide, as a student, the way I was taught at university to combat flood was to create flood defences. And I remember speaking to my dad about this, and he told me, Munu, it's not as easy, because in Nepal, the way the water flows and the way it's situated is quite difficult to create a flood defence. The design has to be very elaborate. But my question to everyone here is, think about it. We have so many engineers, whether it be SONEUK, whether it be our sisters, like in America, or like the American Engineering Society or NEA, Nepali Engineering Association. Surely if we all work together, there's so much knowledge, there's so much enthusiasm in different kind of generations. Surely we could create a flood defense and embankments and retention pods. Now, retention ponds for me are quite exciting, because even for pleasure reasons, we can create some like a water kind of like a water, like, I don't know how to explain it, but like a kind of theme park around water with our, that's just out of the blue ideas, like that I'm gonna come back later. In terms of urban planning, and the possible solution is zoning laws. Now, some areas will, due to the flood, will completely be swept by the flood, like people's houses. And maybe we should create a law that doesn't allow houses in those areas to be built. We can also strengthen local planning regulations. So we should make sure that the local governments in each municipality, that they should make sure that those houses aren't being built, and they should, you know, do something about it, if that makes sense. And in environmental measures, it sounds so simple, but I actually just think creating trees if you create trees and you create a green region, you know, the water absorbs in the grass, and even landslide, it does kind of prevent landslide. And also on top of it, it's really good for the environment. And like I said, I really do want Nepal to adhere to sustainable goals. And in terms of policies, like I mentioned, I do want to like compulsory mock disaster drills the way it's in New Zealand and Japan. I think some parts of India, like if I'm not mistaken, especially in the south of India, they've started inculcating mock drills. I don't know the place. It's like the Silicon Valley of India, Bangalore. I know Bangalore's like a lot of startups there have kind of embedded this. So I think it'll be it's just very simple. It doesn't really need much, just mock drills and thing. And also in Nepal, that I was talking about AI integration with EWS, right? Early Warning Center, right? Using AI. Now, already Macquarie University has already started this with Nepal, and if I'm not mistaken, Australian Catholic University as well. And I think just carry on working with local universities like Bulchor campus. It doesn't necessarily have to be Bulchor campus. We have to work with the governments work with. They can work with like variety of engineering universities to create EWS. And like I mentioned, we do need more early warning systems scattered all over around Nepal. And it can't just be, a microphone. It has to be integrating with AI. We need to use AI in this because the world is turning very futuristic. But all of these factors I've mentioned, it requires money, which is a scary word in Nepal because people don't like to talk about it, but we need fundings. It doesn't have a map, but I'm so sorry, it doesn't. So we need to find a way to generate this, which I would love to discuss with you. Now, it sounds silly what I'm saying, but we do have a benefit of being a developing country, a developing nation at the moment. You see, right now we don't have solid infrastructures. We kind of are in foundational level, if I'm being completely honest. And the thing is, if we address these issues now and we can create like very flood resilient and earthquake resilient models or infrastructures that will be beneficial for future generation. And right now we don't need to destruct anything, and destruction costs a lot of money because you have to destruct and rebuild, and right now we're just in the rebuilding process. So I think right now is the most exciting time to kind of rebuild Nepal. So in this segment, I want to ask you guys a few questions. What do you guys think is the possible solution to like deal with floods, to mitigate floods? And if anyone is an AI expert, I want to know like how AI can actually technically how it can change the early warning systems, because I only understood it as in a holistic way. So if anyone has, solutions, just let me know. Thank you.
Anyone would like
Okay,
to contribute here? You can.
uh,
Yes,
can
Manoj,
I add
please go
something?
ahead. Yes, Manoj, please.
Mm, yeah, as we know, as we all know, Nepal is is one of the disaster-prone country in the world. But basically, from the 2015 earthquake, Nepal made the progress on disaster reduction. Like I think, as I know, it's ranked 20th nations to contribute to reduce the reduction. And basically, as Ajina discussed there, basically she focused on the earthquake and flood. As I know, as a civil engineer, previously in Nepal, flood traditional major focus on like structural interpretation, like construction of earth and cabin embankment, spurs, and that is the only river training. But now, for the flood reduction, they are focused on linking the upstream and downstream river basins, like through the is cause and effect analysis. And basically, they also integrate the flood risk reduction activities like watershed management in upstream areas and upstream downstream communication for early warning. It is better. Early warning means like if people from the office team can communicate downstream people in a very efficient way. And if there is she also talk about the AI system, and if we able to install those kind of technology, and it will be definitely long term solution. Nepal, we can all see that there is Surya Dohan. It means Tarai region is very susceptible to floods, because of the sediment deposition. And we have to conserve our Shivalik, and we have to look for the long term solution like bioengineering and alternative livelihood. Alternative livelihood means like people from the those areas, flood prone area, can migrate to the safe areas to for the permanent way. Still there is something alter, like something also need to be focused in Nepalese scenario. That's why it's all about the people. All they all know about the they all aware, but still some system is not in the place. That's why I think it will be those type of things if people can like have all install in the you know in early possible way. So those will be the solution as per my understanding and Azina's discussion.
I think we have Yatharth. So Yatharth, you can go on.
Yes, so I just wanted to touch upon the AI aspect because Majina asked how it does help, but how she was asking. I just want to explain because I've done a bit of this is like where I study and stuff and my done my research and stuff. So AI basically it works on collecting huge amount of data. So basically we have lots of data available like through satellites, the weather tools, like how we track the weather, how hot it is, how cold it is, and even like the sea levels, wind, speed, all this sort of stuff. So we have data on this, the pressure, all this sort of data we have. So what AI can do is recognize the patterns. So how AI works, it works through patterns recognition. So through all this data, like if you can see like if it's a bit abnormal the patterns, the temperature, the wind speed is abnormally high, this sort of stuff. So if that's how it like it'll notice the pattern. So with this and also to add to this, like uh, as I said, AI works on data. So the data of the past disasters you can compare with that. What happened? What was the data like in those circumstances? So through all this is how the AI is. They can like almost like early warning. As you said, it can create an early warning it's a notification like alert for the people. So this is how AI can be used. So this will like help if some people are can notice like so, like there's going to be a big disaster on the way, then they can like take preventive actions, like go somewhere further away, even that can save a life, someone people's life. So this is how like AI can work. Yeah, so I just wanted to add that, and I agree with all the other points you made, like about urban planning and environmental measures. Like that was pretty. I think I agree with all those stuff. Yeah, so that was all.
So I think one of the most useful benefit of AI is predictive analysis, right? So predictive analysis, especially in case of floods and all, it's very useful. In case of earthquake, I remember when I was working in Japan, we used to have an app. I mean, it's very difficult to detect, but I think when there are some tremors and all initial tremors, so it used to give us like a warning, like an alarm, so that people can at least go out, because earthquake is like in 1 minute everything just gets devastated, right? So even if you have few seconds that you can go out also, so that even in that I think AI can also help maybe in terms of earthquake, but mostly I think in floods and all it's very useful, the predictive analysis aspect of AI. Anyone else? And then regarding the sustainable drainage, like you said, in the Western world, it's the sustainable drainage. It's like very much in the market. And then since in Kathmandu we still have so many infrastructures yet to build. For example, this example of this permeable, like you said, this permeable block, but we also have a concept of permeable pavement. So like we still have the outer ring road, and there's so many roads that are still to be developed in Kathmandu Valley especially. So if we are able to use the permeable pavement, then I think it can reduce the water runoff, and it can also increase the absorption, and in that way it can really help in reducing the urban flood, because nowadays urban flooding, even in the developed countries, it's a problem everywhere, right? Because of the urbanization and everything is concrete, so there are very few places where the rainwater can be absorbed. So that's why, so permeable pavement is one of the very good approach in terms of Kathmandu. That is my point of view.
I want to add something. In the Kathmandu like city area, basically to control the those type of flash flood, we have to first of all think about the waste management. Also, is also important. You know, if you go through the drainage in Kathmandu in like monsoon season, we can see the the basically those type of small floors starts from the like small roadways, and we can
Mm.
see, but waste management is the major problem. I think this,
Yes, waste
yeah,
management. I think you're trying to say we need to clean the drainage system and all,
yeah,
right? Drainage and all.
yeah,
Yeah, that is also important. And I can also add, like, we have this term called dredging, because when there is every monsoon where the river flows, it brings this sedimentation, and there is the level of the sediment is increased in the rivers and all, right? So dredging is removal of that sediments. If you do it pre-monsoon, that is also very helpful because it doesn't choke the like rivers and all. Also, that is also one of the ways. Yeah. So Ajina, would you like to continue?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
sorry. Let me just, yeah. So in this segment, I will be talking in a case study that I just fell into about a month ago. A YouTuber, I think it's called Nepal's Comments or something like that. He did a case study on this, and I kind of never understood this. And I think this became really apparent in October this past month. So it's on Koshi Barrage, and it's created in between, like, the what's it called, the borders for India and Nepal, near the Bihar region and that part of Nepal, which I don't know. I'm so sorry. That's so embarrassing. So the length of that Koshi Barrage is nearly, like, approximately 1 kilometer. And it was constructed between 1958 to 1962. So it did take 2 years to create. And it was mainly created to kind of deal with what's it called, the flood, and to create, it was to create embankments to kind of mitigate the flood, because apparently the floods that can occur in that area can literally destroy Bihar as a region, which would be disastrous. So in that Koshi barrage, there's 56 gates, but due to the Koshi agreement, even though it's owned by Nepal, India controls if it's when the gates get opened and closed, and it's depicted in the drawing I drew. I'm very apologetic for my drawing. I cannot draw to save my life, but the O represents open, the C represents closed. And if you can see, and depending on India's how, well, not like how they feel, but it kind of depends on them. And the agreement was signed on 1954, but it was amended after it was created. And I don't think there's been kind of any sort of amendments, but in the next slide, I'll talk about if we could. Now, the current status of it is the water level is way above the danger mark. So as of now, I do think the Indian government and the Nepal's government should do something about it, because if you think about it, even if it accumulates in Nepal, it can also affect India. Like, for example, 2008, the eastern embankment in the Koshi barrage completely collapsed, and think about how many farmlands got destroyed. The economic losses in Nepal's families is tarnished. It got completely vanished, and no source of income for Nepal. And unfortunately, forget about income in this, 3 million people in India became homeless, which is, if you think about it, that's like the population of Wales, which, that to me is absolutely crazy, if I'm being completely honest. Now, these are my thoughts, and I want everyone to kind of come and join, because this is something I'm really passionate about, and I really want everyone to join in. But what do you guys think about the Koshi barrage, and what do you think we as Nepalis we can do? Now, I've got a few ideas, and if you guys want to add on to them, please add on to them. That will make me really happy. But these are my 3 ideas, and I want to know your opinions. And if you are an AI expert, tell me ways on how AI can be integrated in this barrage, or if it can be, or if it can't be. So let me start. So I was talking to my mum about this. I was thinking about, if you realize hydropower is kind of down everyone's like throats in Nepal, like especially every investment summit you go to, or you speak to any social leaders in Nepal, hydropower, because it is clean energy. So, the accumulation of the flooding, could we use it for upstream high dams that could maybe be generated from hydropower? Maybe. What about water diversions and the water being diverted, or like flood, like is it called flood routing? Yeah, flood routing, and it can go to the farmlands, and the farmlands can have adequate water, maybe possibly. And could we possibly amend the treaty? And I know I don't want to go super political in this, but as a to that, you know, that could we amend the treaty where it benefits both India and Nepal? And in that treaty, engineers will be required, especially in the technical design, and especially how complicated Nepal's landscape is. Engineers are needed from the front till the back of this agreement. And besides policy infrastructure development wise, what other solutions are there for this Koshi water? Please join in. Sorry.
If anyone has any suggestions or if you want to contribute in the discussion, you can also put it on the chat box.
I want to add something. Yes, Ajeena want to raise some questions about water diversion and around catchment areas. Uh, in this terms, I think Kosi have the 7 different tributary river like Indravati, Dudkosi, Tamakosi, Likhu, and Arun, Tamor, and because of sediment deposits from the different river, that's why we can't control those deposit in Tarai. And if we clear those deposit, those sedimentation
Mm.
before the monsoon period, and it will be the one possible solution. Apart from this, we also discussed one SONEUK webinar before with I forgot the name of sorry, interbasin water transfer system.
Interbasin, yeah.
Yeah, if marine diversion, if
Sunkosi
Sunkosi marine
Marine, yeah.
diversion, if we think about those kind of interbasin water transfer system in other tributary river of the Saptakosi river, it will be the major solution if is long term solution, and it also helpful for the other engineering aspects like irrigation, irrigation to other region of the Nepal. And not only this, we can also install the water like the things we can enjoy in the water like tourism aspects.
Mm.
I think
L-
it will be the possible solution, and it will be helpful for to control the flood as well.
Yes. And during the dry season, it can also be used, the interbasin water transfers. Yeah.
Can I ask you, Manoj, like, when you talked about water tourism, right, and water, like what you said, to use for recreational activities, I actually think that's a phenomenal idea. But do you think it's feasible? Because it sounds good on paper, but if you think about it, do you think Nepal has enough budget for that to actually occur? Because I would love for it to happen. If you look at Nepal's population, there's a lot, like 50% is under, if I'm not mistaken, 30. So there is a lot of youth in our culture. So I want to know, like, if it is feasible in your like expertise.
Uh, as we know, Nepal had the huge potential in terms of water resources. Like we also used to like call the second largest country in terms of water resources. But as we talk about, if we create the catchment in upstream, like if we create the reservoir, and we can see here in London, they also distribute the drinking water, tap water through the reservoir. We can do, but still there's the lack of the connection between the stakeholders and regulatory body, like there is the lack of policies. So if we use our own resources to develop the our country, it will be really coming in the future. But lack of the coordination and lack of the utilization of the uh, fund, we can see in the Budi Gandaki, it was started in 1979, but still it is the process. It is in the process of, that is also the no construction is started yet. It's all lack of the policy, as my understanding.
as per my understanding.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have the example of this Indra Sarovar Lake. If it's just like about 50 kilometers from Kathmandu, it's a reservoir for the Kulekhani. So around that area, there are like many boating, there are homestays, and then hotels, and also many people from Kathmandu, they go there for picnics and day trips, and also it is possible because when there is a lake and all, it looks very beautiful, and different activities can be done. So one example is the Indra Sarovar Lake.
Yeah, I actually never knew, which like thanks, because I'm gonna do more research about this when I go home. But yeah, thank you. Susan, should I move on? Because I'm worried about the time.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very worried about the time. I'm so sorry. So now this is the earthquake segment. And from the flood, I can see that because flood occurs more often, because if you think about it, the monsoon season and our drainage system is so weak, floods happen on a regular interval, whereas earthquake, it happens less often. But from all of the data and from all the conclusions I can conclude with, do I think Nepal is kind of ready for earthquake? I'm not really sure. So if you guys are aware, in 25th of April 2025, SONEUK hosted a 10-year anniversary for Nepal's earthquake in Golden Ship. And if I'm not mistaken, all of the presenters, they had 4 kind of ideas shared upon them. And they kind of came up with the solutions that were proposed and that should be kind of amended. And for people that didn't really attend, I'm just going to quickly summarize what the outcomes that came out for me. And if anyone like had more outcomes from that event, please write in the chat box. But in my work, like the conclusions I came up with, the solutions that were proposed during that seminar, seminar. And the first was to use earthquake resilient materials instead of our traditional masonry to improve structural reliance. Now, obviously, Nepal, I don't want to sound rude, but loads of Nepali people were very emotional and we are emotionally attached to the past. So maybe doing a hybrid kind of solution would be to use kind of incorporate traditional masonry and maybe to also use a earthquake resilient material whilst building their house. That possibly could be a solution. The second was to establish kind of a ground condition team to assess the soils and site stability for infrastructures to be built and earthquake preparedness to occur. And that was proposed by Dr. Amate, if I'm not mistaken. The third was to implement a large-scale retrofitting across Nepal and to meet safety standards. And the last one was to continue updating and enforcing the Nepali building codes. Now, I really wasn't aware about this, but I remember discussing with my colleagues a few days ago that I was just like, I don't think Nepal has we have a building code that has been updated? And they actually told me it has been updated, especially after the consequence of a 2015 thing. They updated it and the new building code is specified as MBC 105 2020, and that was in the byproduct of the Nepal's earthquake. But there is a really big problem for this. According to a Bukhara Engineering Journal, unfortunately, less than 5% people actually, or 5% of buildings and infrastructure actually comply by these new building code. Now, if you can see the Radha building, which is created in Bhaktapur, which was made after the 2015 earthquake. Now, this is a building situated in Bhaktapur. Now, if anyone knows, Bhaktapur is a very seismic high-risk zone. To create a 15-story building that's uncompleted, that's kind of scary and it's quite intimidating because the consequences of this can be hefty. Now, my question that I raised to myself was, how was this legal? You can't just tell me. The fact that this wasn't completely built was because apparently the local council didn't agree with it. But how did the local council allow a 15-story building to be built? Because a 15-story building does not occur during, like, it doesn't get made overnight. It's phased construction that occurs in Nepal. So that to me just doesn't fit right. So my question to everyone is, do you think Nepal is truly ready for an earthquake 20 whatever? Because from the floods, I can't really tell it is. And who should be in control of making sure that retrofitted and the building codes are being reinforced? Because as an outsider, what I can see is there's a lot of corruption in this. And I don't want to go super political, but in situations like this, we do need to talk about what the government or what international bodies can do. Because if I'm being completely honest, this isn't really acceptable, because unfortunately if this building does topple over, because if I'm not mistaken, whilst doing the study in this and watching a video by In-Depth Story, Radha Rade's buildings commission was only 5 story. So for the fact that they made a 15-story building, it does tell me something. So I do want to know your opinions about who should be managing building codes, if it should be the local government or if it should be the government itself or the local governments, and if local mayors should have a say, and who should be kind of, checking on the local mayors that there's no kind of corruption that's occurring. But yeah, I want to know your opinion now. Thank you.
You can raise your hand, or if anyone is interested, you can also put your views on the chat box.
Let me tell something about my experience. Before 2015, we already started building the houses, like the earthquake, uh, in terms of
Resistant. Yeah.
resistance. Yeah. So we already started while I was in police. It's going to same story again. So we started when during the civil war we had the war between the Maoist and the police. Lots of the buildings are collapsed during that time. They destroyed all the building, and then we rebuilt the buildings with the structure. Like we have the in one floor, we have the three beams, which is like the one is ceiling beam, the other one is lintel, and the other one, the third one is the sea level,
Still
at the sea
level.
level. So
Yes.
that's the how we prepared for the earthquake. And I think during, because of using those technology that they using those construction system, the loss of the police building was not affected during the earthquake in back
Okay.
in 2015. And also regarding the Radha Radhe and the other things are, even nowadays, what the practice is, when there is three different types of the plan we normally produce. One is for the planning permission purpose, one is for the as for the client, one is for the construction purpose. Back that is actually in practice back in Nepal. So what normally we do when we apply for the planning permission from the Kathmandu metropolitan city or from the local authority, we prepare the drawings as per the all the requirement as per the building code. Whereas when we go to actually on field, we work, we have a different set of drawing for the construction, which doesn't comply with the building code. That is the what's truth. Yeah. And then everyone is well aware. I believe all the people who has been working or who has experience working in the government body back in Nepal, they are well aware of all the system. So blame goes to everyone. Honestly, regarding the Radha Radha building, it was constructed, if I'm not wrong, when I was going towards the Bhaktapur back in 2011, it was already started. It was already started building the Radha Radha building. It was not built after 2015. It was already there. No one said anything because if I'm not wrong, it was on the way to the Salagari, something like that. So that is
Yeah, yeah.
my things. That is my point. So everyone should follow the rules strictly.
Yes.
Like even here in UK, as per my practice, we prepare the drawing while we different drawing while we submit the council. Whereas in reality, when we go to the field and construct something, we always follow the different drawing, which doesn't follow the actual planning permission. Just this is the even here in the UK, it's very developed, very strict country. Just think about the Nepal. Nepal is not like UK, and we have that practice since
And I think,
a long time.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I would
So
just, yes.
yeah, please add.
I
That's
would
it.
just like to add on because I also worked in this National Reconstruction Authority for 2 years. So there another problem is like even if everything is in place, the workmanship, the mason training and all, sometimes even there, because at the end, even as engineers, even if we tell them how to do, if the end workmanship is not done properly, that also it's also a problem, so that also should be properly taken care of, the proper training of the mason and the workmen who are actually working in the field. That is my point of view.
Yeah, you have to work with the local people, isn't it? You can't.
Yeah,
You can tell them, but you
yeah, but
can't make them. They will
exactly. So
follow their own way. But
yeah,
if you are from the consultant side or from the client side, you can ask the contractor and then demolish the structure. What
demonstrate.
we
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
you can demolish the structure, and then they will follow you, because if they try to follow their own way, then they will lose the money. At the end of the day, you are the one who authorized the final bill or the running bill. Yeah, and because
Yes.
of that, yeah, because of that, they will follow you. Otherwise, you don't have
Otherwise,
control.
yeah.
Yeah,
So we
I
really need
work
to be
Absolutely.
for yeah,
careful.
yeah.
I
I am actually from the Kathmandu, and I work nearly 3 years in Far West region during that time for the reconstruction project. And then when I went there, first time everyone looks at me at a different way, like they am coming from completely different planet, because of the my body structure, because of the language that I speak, and the language they speak is completely different, isn't it? That's a part of Nepal, but sometimes it looks like you went there different world, and you can't
Yes,
force them. You can tell them, you can ask them,
that is
and
also one
then
of the
yeah,
major challenge.
that is a very challenging part.
Challenging, yeah.
Yeah, and in terms
um
of the she just mentioned about the Kosi barriers earlier. When I went to Ilam side, that side, when I know we have the control on that one, it makes me proud, honestly. If you go to far west side, you don't have control.
mm,
You don't have anything. Nothing is under your control, under Nepal favor. Yeah. Oh my God. The reality is really bad. It's really hurt you when you visit them. Even
mhm,
that side, we have the river, we have the barrier system over there, which is completely under the control of the India. Yeah.
mm,
Oh my God, you will cry by yourself. Honestly, that's the
mm,
situation in the far west. So, uh, as she mentioned about the Pulchok Engineering Campus, collaborating with them, and then try to work with the disaster management system, all those things, that's really helped.
Yeah.
But we have to include all the universities, what I believe,
absolutely.
apart from the Pulchok. Pulchok is not only the university, only the college who works under the engineering sector. There is lots of university in Nepal now. I believe there is 6 or 7 universities that we have to collaborate with if we really want to um improve and do something under the disaster management. That's what my
Absolutely.
opinion is. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with both of your points, and absolutely. About the Rather building, I was just sorry to interject. I just wanted to ask you, um, So it was built in 2011. I don't really know because I haven't lived in Nepal since 2007. But I wanted to ask a question. So was the 15 story already built by then, or was it just starting to be built? That's just my question.
It
Sorry
was
to.
on, yeah, it was under the construction during that time. I don't know what happened. The structure, the front structure is already constructed, and the back structure, which is like looks like the tower, that is
Mhm.
started building up. And there was some dispute between the people, and during
Mm,
that time, that the construction work is stopped back in
mm,
2011, and then everyone is quite strange. It's like looks like, if something is not completed, if something is wrong, the people start, there's a gossip like the ghost building, all those
mm.
things, like
Yeah, it's
the
not funny, but
woodcut, all
yeah,
those, yeah. That's how
yeah.
the people start talking about.
But
So
it's
that is,
it. Yeah, but to me, if I'm being completely honest, as an outsider that studied outside, it just looks like a concrete block, and concrete, it decays. So for it to snap, it's quite risky. The fact that they haven't destroyed it, and I feel like if the government did destroy it now, it would deter businessmen, government officials, or even private investors or foreign investors to build buildings that don't adhere to building codes or Nepal's kind of planning permission wise, if that makes sense. So in my opinion, they should demolish it. But from what you've said, I think I don't know if everyone agrees with me, but what do you think the next step should be for that builder regarding that building?
I will strongly suggest to demolish the building, honestly, because of the
Okay.
obviously the all the concrete and the has the age limit, isn't it? So, and then
Yeah.
also the building is not properly constructed. I believe there is something going on there during that time. I heard some rumors during that time, which I don't have the proper evidence. But the thing is, when it was designed for the um,
Hotel.
no, it's not. There was a certain story as per the building reg, yeah, as per the local authority. It was designed like the during the I'll give you one example. What happened during the earthquake time 2015, the most of the building which is built nearby the bus park, new bus park, they are demolished. They are just destroyed because when they built, the people who started that one, they just built like the resident building for the 1 2 story only, and the structure was designed as for the 1 2 story building, yeah, that suited for the 1 2 story
Mm-hmm.
building. When they sell that property to the third person, they just put another story on top.
Oh,
Consequently,
wow.
yeah, that's how it was happening. And when I went there during after the earthquake, what I have figured out, the reinforcement bar at the ground level was 12 mm, whereas at the third floor was 20 mm. Just
Hmm.
imagine,
Yeah,
does it work?
exactly.
Does it work? It doesn't, isn't it? It
Yeah.
doesn't work like that. As for the engineering, as the floor goes up, the load will be minimized, and then the size of bar is reduced normally. That's what the principle says. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that is exactly opposite in case of the building where those buildings are at the new bus park. I went there because yes, I went there. I worked in Nepal police in a technical department for more than 10 years, and then I got the lots of opportunity to deal with the disaster, natural
Okay.
disaster, and also I get the chance to be a part of the team from the Nepal government um, to manage the people in the airport.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And because of all those experience, what I can say, I can tell, it's not only blaming the government is the solution, it's also the people.
People, yeah.
They do
Exactly.
not follow the rules.
Exactly.
The people
Y-
who introduce themselves as an engineer, they are the vital person, and they are the main source of the main root of this problem. Honestly,
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
can stop, but they can't. They don't. They can stop.
Abs-
They don't. They just want to make their life more easy, rather than discussing the people and make them to follow the rule. That's what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Is it possible if I could just go to my last slide because this is my last slide? Thank you all for joining in and joining in this fruitful conversation. And if anyone has questions, you can always kind of email me or Facebook message me. But this is my kind of conclusion segment. It's kind of for everyone to kind of chip in. And even if you don't want to speak up, you could write in the chat box. And people that have spoken, please feel free to answer these questions. So the 4 questions I'm going to ask, you can just answer one if you want, depending. So the first question I kind of want to conclude this session with is, if you were the Minister of Infrastructure for a day or for a week or for a month, what's the first action or policy you would implement in Nepal for Nepal to be kind of disaster prepared and disaster resilient? The second question is, if you were chief engineer leading a flood recovery project and an earthquake recovery project, how would you balance cost, sustainability, and the speed of rebuilding after disaster? And if you were an INGO or World Bank, how would you make sure local youth engineers and communities are truly involved in designing the solution in the disaster? And my final question is, what can the Nepali diaspora internationally do to support disaster management efforts beyond funding? Thank you very much. And the floor is yours now. Like, please contribute, please. Thanks.
So anyone who's interested in answering, you can raise your hands. We can even chip in the chat box. Or
Uh,
like
oh,
Ajeena said,
sorry.
yes.
I just want to add some. I just want to like answer one of these. So you asked before, like, is Nepal more prepared now, like, than what it was before? So, like, I would say yes. In from the last earthquake 10 years ago, it is in a better place because we've had more international support. There's been more community awareness, and there's been some policies that's been developed. But still, I don't feel like it's still there yet. So even like especially in urban centers like Kathmandu, if a big earthquake arrives tomorrow, then still there'll be lots of catastrophe that's gonna happen. So to be honest, we still there's a long way to go. So if there's one policy that I would implement, it would be to make the buildings, like it would be like to deal that deals with the building, because most of the fatality came from the all the buildings, big buildings falling, like crashing down. That was what call that what that was the main issue for all those deaths and so much of the killings and all this stuff. So one policy that has to be implemented is like when building new buildings, this it has to be like done properly, like it has to be maintained, and it can't be made like just it has to be basically what I'm saying is it has to be made in a proper structured way. Everything has to be looked at before it's being made. So yeah, that would be my suggestion.
Yeah, absolutely right. Like what you said about Nepal being prepared, absolutely, it is more prepared. We have more AI. The youth is much more, engaged. Even the Nepali diaspora that live abroad can help out and they know what to do, what steps to proceed. And even the elderly, they know what to do. So you are right, we are more prepared. But if it happens, if there's another one, there could be another sort of like another segment of consequences that could follow through, like data being, completely hacked, because not hacked, but destroyed. So other problems do come with technological advancements as well. But that's my opinion. But thank you so much.
Anyone else? Please, you can go ahead.
Susan, I can see a chat thing. Did someone say something there? Can you
Yes,
just
Ashwin did. He said, can I ask a question?
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry. I just wanted to ask a question. If everyone is finished
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
answering.
sure.
please.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. First of all, and thank you, Azina. That was really insightful session. And like I'm trying to ask that, like, as we know, Nepal is geographically very blessed and challenged at the same time, right? So, for example, uh, if we are planning to build or construct a road through hilly area, there's always chances of triggering disasters like landslides and floods. So my question is, how can we continue, or like how can we manage to continue with the developmental projects in such areas while also making sure we prevent such disasters?
Um, s- Stephen, should I just say something and you finish it because I think you're
Yes,
more,
yes,
yeah.
please.
So that's Absolutely. Hello, yeah, thank you. So my main thing, thank you, Asmdi, for the question, and thank you for coming. The first thing is what you said is completely right. It's one of those situations is when I was telling my dad about I mean flood defense, let's make flood defenses, and he was like, don't be crazy, because like you said, we are challenged. So in that aspect, I think it has to be in a very phased construction manner with very high tech that doesn't create a landslide. We do need to work with multiple agencies for this, in my opinion. So we do have support from international agencies as well to kind of give us the correct equipments, because when it's a narrow place, there's certain equipments and there's certain construction machinery that we do require. But I think Susan D is probably best person to answer in this question, hence because she's worked in this environment. So I'll let her continue on. Sorry.
So in my point of view, it's not possible that we cannot like do the development work in our terrain. It's just that we have to be extra careful in terms of we need to take care of the geographical, if there are fault lines, and then like Ajina said, even when we are using the machines, sometimes it's not even feasible to use the machine. Maybe we have to go back to the manual labor, and then besides this, we also need to have proper soil test. And then in case where there are landslide prone areas, like even in this Sinduli, this Bardibas, we have different bioengineering works and all. And then there are different technologies like shotcreting and all that can also help to reduce the landslides. And then other concepts like when you they are called weep holes and all, which lets the water pass through the retaining walls and all. So we have different technology how we can prevent. So we need to adopt it, and then we need to, so from the planning phase we need to consider all these consideration, and that would like help to prevent the landslides to a lot of extent.
Just to add on to Suzanne's point, like if you think about it, Hamidoni Airport, so we see so many Nepal's labor workers or builders or people that work in the construction field going to Malaysia, are going to the Middle East, going to Japan, South Korea. So I think we have enough resources, even in challenging aspects, because to be fair, if you think about it, the parameters working in international places like the Middle East, it's not easy, whether it be the weather, there are constraints. So we do have, in my opinion, we have enough Nepali people that have worked in those in very constrained sections of build construction. So I think it can be possible, if that makes sense. Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you. But just to add on, like, isn't that gonna cost way too much? All those technologies and all those resources when we implement, I know it's gonna work out, but it's not gonna guarantee there's not it's gonna prevent there's what I'm trying to say, there's still a risk and there's a
Yeah.
way too much cost. So my question is it worth or is it not? Just trying to understand.
Yeah, I think from the engineer's point of view, we just need to balance cost and then like need, if we, when we are doing the feasibility study, because just because it's costly we cannot danger the lives and all. So we should find the right balance, and there are many examples even in Nepal where they have done it successfully. So I'm not an expert, but I believe that if things are done in a planned manner, then it can be done even with even by reducing the cost and increasing the safety and more stability. I hope we were able to answer your question,
Yeah, no,
Ashwandip.
thank you then. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? If no one has questions, then I would like to ask our chairperson, Timilsina sir, to conclude the session.
So Why I can't see all the people?
They don't have.
Because
Okay,
people have put their camera off.
yeah, that's fine. So thank you all. So the idea was I was discussing, how can we bring all the people in the conversations, and especially the young talents who has so much to share from the learning in this AI world. And then the Ajana came up with the idea, okay, we are not experienced enough to deliver a kind of webinar or something that people can that we can help the people to get the more on it. But what we can do, we can raise the issue and bring into the discussions, which I liked. So this is just a wake-up call to bring all the young talents into the forum to come and discuss and share their thoughts. The question that Arjuna has put forward can be communicated through the email or any other forms, the Microsoft form or other things, so that I thank Arjuna as well as request all of you to come forward. You see, the public is speaking or the knowledge sharing is a big asset. You have knowledge, so what if the people can't hear you, right? If you can't get the benefit, the people can't get the benefit of you. So come forward. If you have come up with some idea, you don't need to prepare for the 1 hour sessions. You just prepare for 10, 15 minutes, half an hour, whatever the length you may come up, discuss the idea, get the knowledge, collect. I keep saying we are very good individually. All of us are very good individually, but collectively we are not. This SONEUK forum is to come up with the collective knowledge. We've been cooperating or collaborating with the Nepal Engineers Association, American Society of Nepalese Engineers, and then the global engineers to have a collective voice. The disaster we've been talking every time. In 2023, as per the whatever the data Ajeena has put forward, we had the disaster, so many life lost. Same disaster, same flooding came again this month or last month. We could not do anything except went to square one. So what's the benefit? There's no lesson learning or no actions that we are putting together to come up with the mitigation plan. There are so many things that we can do. I want to add one thing. Ashwandit has raised a very valid questions, but in my opinion, every risk is an additional cost. If you are not mitigating risks, your project cost will go high. So there are so many, the engineering or technical approach to minimize the cost is, for example, if you are constructing the road and it comes under the fragile terrain, then you have options whether to avoid that route or maybe the tunnel will be the best solutions to avoid the future landslide on that way, like we have the Maliku, no Mughal Maliku and Nanghat, the stretch. So we have to take care. Risks is never ending, and it's a cost, additional cost to the project. So we have to mitigate the risks. There's no way out. We have to get rid of or to minimize the risks. So that's a very good question. Thank you, Sandit. And then thank you all. I'm not taking any more time because we have already spent over 2 hours for nearly 35 minutes. The discussion was very, very energetic. I thank you all for all your active participations. I believe Sejana is aiming to have this kind of discussion every week, except the next because of this Diwali. So try to come and participate. And I thank you, Ajena, once again, and all the participants with their thoughts and then the excellent participations. Please come forward, share your knowledge, let the country get the benefit of your knowledge. If you are silent forever. If you talk and share your knowledge, it will be taken well, and then that's what the country need. It doesn't matter if you don't have the knowledge, but if you dare to talk, then at least whatever you are bringing the other people to the floor to share the knowledge to help the country. If you are really keen to help the country, the call is come forward and talk and share your knowledge. I encourage you all to participate and put forward whatever you can put, either knowledge or the questions or contributions. With these few notes, thank you so much. And thank you, Ajin and Sejana. Well done. And all of you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Namaste.
everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you all.
Okay, bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye bye. Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Ajina.
Thank
Well
you.
done. Yeah,
Very
really
nice talk.
commendable work.
Thank you very
Well,
Thank
much.
you.
was
Thank you
very
so
good.
much. Thank you. Bye. Thank you
Bye-bye.
so much. Bye. Have a lovely evening. Bye.
You too. Bye bye.
Okay, sir. So how I should download now? राम्रो भयो त अजिना होइन आई थिङ्क इट वाज कसरी गर्ने छैन नर्भस ए सरको कोट लगाएको